Welcome. This is the IGDA Holiday Cheer Hackathon, and today we're having a wonderful panel by some experts at Leyline to talk to you about the good of games, how games can be a force of good, and to bring us a little cheer in this holiday season. So I'll introduce us over to the panel, and let's start this off. Go ahead.
Us it's during our lunch hours, others it's in the middle of the day, maybe tea time, and then others might have dinner going on. So again, thank you so much for spending this time with us. My name is Mark. I'm part of the Leyline business development team, and today we have a panel that's focused on gaming as a force for good, philanthropy in the gaming world, where we'll be talking about the current space and about Leyline and its mission to help facilitate gaming as a force for good. So our goal today is that whatever your role in the industry, that you will come away with something, a new idea, a fresh perspective, a new strategy, something that could help you, something that you can apply to your own goals as an independent game developer. So we're going to have a really quick introduction to our panel right now. First, we have Jeremy De La Rosa. He's founder and CEO of Leyline Inc. Jeremy spent over 10 years at Blizzard Entertainment, where he launched numerous AAA games, 7 to be exact, and the Overwatch League. Next, we have Cody Urban, who is a project management and media veteran, having 17 years in the space, including 8 years as a video journalist. He also teaches media arts to high schoolers, and I've yet to be lucky enough to have one of his homebrews, he being a very avid homebrewer. Next is Eugene Yoon, who comes to Leyline to support the business development team along with me and Jeremy. And she has over a decade's worth of experience in esports and primarily focused on the collegiate space. She holds a marine science degree from from Boston University. And certainly not least, but last on the list, anxiety. She's a mental health advocate, writer, and live talk show host, aggregating resources, essays, and interviews to end the stigma of mental illness. So I'll kick things off with a few questions to get the conversation rolling, but we want to keep this interactive. So please don't be bashful and feel free to type in Twitch chat, which I have on my other monitor over here, with a little tag that says, hey, put a question. I have a question, guys. Feel free to ask your questions there, and I'll read them out to the panel. Okay, so I think I'm going to kick things off with you, Cody.
Right.
Being that you're a teacher in the space and that you've been within the media arts world for a long time, and as an avid gamer, really we were talking earlier, like what does gaming for good really kind of mean for you?
Boy, man, that's a great question, and it makes me go, where do I start? And I just start with the inception of gaming. Honestly, it's kind of where my brain goes back to how gaming is so intrinsic to human nature. I mean, like chess and backgammon date back to 3000 BC. I don't know if you guys knew that. There's even an Egyptian board game, Senet. I believe it's pronounced Senet. It's S-E-N-E-T. It dates back to 3500 BC. I mean, games have been part of human nature for such a long time. And I kind of wonder if so is violence, sadly, right? We have a very competitive side to ourselves, and we know we can go pretty bad with that. But it feels like games are sort of a way to kind of curb that. Like, hey, we're competitive, but instead of like crushing each other and killing each other, let's actually play a sport. Let's actually compete in something that's a little bit more peaceful and creates peace. I mean, heck, like the inception, the origin of the Olympics, right? Back in 9th century BC in Greece. Mm-hmm. I mean, there was a truce, the Olympic truce that allowed people to travel because there were artists and athletes and spectators and stuff. And there was like a prohibition on attacking them. I mean, so like, and those predate video games, of course, but all those have, as technology has grown, so has, gaming. Mm-hmm. But I believe has been at its heart, a fundamental aspect of humanity seeking something that's a greater good, seeking peace and cooperation, even in its competitive nature.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. As you were talking through that, I was kind of thinking about play and how just like it's a natural thing that we all do, even if you've probably seen kittens play, right? And it's just part of like, hey, it's a game. We're learning from this, and there's a lot of good that comes from that. So how about you, Jeremy? I mean, Jeremy, as the founder of Leyline and your mission there, you've clearly see that gaming for good is really important. So what does it mean to you?
Yeah, well, I 100% agree with you guys. I've got 2 young daughters, they're 4 and 7, and I absolutely see the power of learning that you get from playing. Because essentially, you're able to test all these different boundaries with essentially little consequence, and the ability to fail without consequence is so powerful because failure is the best teacher. And so, I've been a lifelong gamer like forever. I'm a giant nerd, and I love all things geeky: comic books, D&D, board games, gaming, etc. And so, it's been a big part of my life. And what happened was, I was working a lot in New York in the tech sector and just burning my, both ends of the candle. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I should just go do video games, because like I was always afraid I'd be, burning both ends of the candle in the games industry. So what happened to me is that I got into this space and I realized, whoa, there's a massive amount of stuff that's happening in the industry. Gaming's overall is like easily over $100 billion in that industry. So what is happening in this space? And what I discovered through these different roles is that gaming is hitting on these very powerful intrinsic motivators. Everything from having a sense of community and a sense of fulfillment, and that you're growing and you're learning, a sense of achievement, competition. All of these different things are very biologically wired into how we find satisfaction and meaning in life. And, it's very fascinating to see, as we've digitized all of these natural tendencies, gaming also quantifies it. So now we can see stats and understand, whoa, these are achievements that I can lock, and very clear senses of progression. Where in the real world, like, it's kind of hard to measure your skill development. But in the gaming world, it is right there. You can see how many wins, your win-loss ratio, your ranks compared to others. So it's hitting some very powerful motivators on top of us. So the thing that I realized was that, okay, there's this really powerful untapped space, and there are 2.7 billion gamers on the planet. So the question is, all this problem solving, this experimentation, this creativity, this social connection, where's the energy being applied to? And the more I realized how big and powerful this space is getting, my question was, how much of that energy is being redirected back to helping people and the planet? And
Right.
Unfortunately, even if you look at the revenue numbers across the industry, it is easily well under 1%. And in some companies, it's 0.3% of the money is actually going back into, supporting humanitarian or environmental causes. And then I thought even more around this, like, okay, so the products that we're building are super engaging. And we're just spending a lot of our cognitive energy solving problems in a digital space. What if we apply even just a tiny amount of that to solving real problems? Think of the progress we would make as a species. So
Absolutely.
that was like
And
really
sorry to-
framing. Oh, so please.
Absolutely, yeah. And sorry to cut you off, but I think we're gonna want to focus on that a little bit later as we kind of deep dive into what Leyline can do to help. To be fair, what we talk about all the time at the office. Sorry, the virtual office is making altruism and making charity as easy as possible, right? And so I definitely want to dive into that later. But before we do that, I also want to call out Rico Kitty on Twitch, who hit the nail on the head. Play is the best way to learn, and I see. I think that's a lot of what Cody just mentioned too. But as we're talking a little bit more about gaming for good too. There's obviously learning. There's activate what Leyline's trying to do and activating people to do altruistic means. But before Leyline came about, there's obviously been a lot of philanthropy going on in the gaming space, and that's where I think Eugenia and Anxiety can really help speak to that. So let me kick it over to you, Anxiety. As someone who's a very much an advocate in mental health in the space and has used streaming and games as a platform, I would love to hear more about your experiences and what you've been able to accomplish, and how we as a community of gamers can look towards that and almost use that as a template so we can try to do something similar.
The thing I'm proudest about through my streaming career is the community that I've been able to cultivate. And I think when you talk to streamers, that's the common thread that a lot of these streamers, especially ones that try to do good, will talk about. You can't do good unless you have a community who wants to donate, who wants to have mental health conversations, right? Who is there for your interviews and cheering you on and asking questions and chat and all that. And my community started from a little game called Stardew Valley, which right now it's got its 1.5 update, right? But it all started because we were having conversations over this very chill, relaxed game, and it lends itself to a lot of discussion time. But it also has mental health themes in it. There are characters with PTSD and addiction, and you have to at some point encounter what they're dealing with and go through it. And it was a great opportunity for me to springboard. I'm trying to remember which character. Oh, Shane. The friend event that you have with Shane is a great springboard to let people know, hey, mental health first aid might be a really, really great tool to have in case you ever encounter somebody who is in pain and dealing with suicidal ideation and things like that. So gaming really was the backbone for me to be able to start these conversations. And it's actually one of the things that I hope to continue using towards conversations in 2021. But we've also been able to, that's the community that's been able to, I've raised just about a little over $10,000 overall for mental health related charities. At least $2,000 out of that have went to directly to helping people get access to mental health care that they wouldn't otherwise have. I mean, you talk about Dr. Lupo, who just raised $2 million to help fight cancer with St. Jude. I mean, these are things. Gaming is a springboard without which these things, I mean, they might be happening, but not on this level, not at this maximum kind of capacity. And that's really awesome and inspiring to see.
I think, you really hit the nail on the head. Actually, what really kind of impacted me with what you just said is with regards to community and cultivating that community and how it kind of started with Stardew Valley. So can you just give me a little bit more or explain that a little bit more to me? Because as someone who has never developed a community, and a lot of it's because I use a lot of 4-letter words, how were
around that? Just don't knock yourself short. Go ahead. Sorry.
But yeah, how did you were you able to cultivate a community that you were able to activate and raise 5 digits worth of philanthropic cash to help with mental health?
So it starts with, of course, it starts with the game, and it starts with something that you have in common with people that they're interested in seeing, right? Either maybe somebody's coming in and they just want to watch somebody play Stardew Valley, or they want to see what the game is about, or they want to see what the new update is. And then bam, you hit them with mental health information. But in reality, it's a matter of, starting open dialogue, and then creating a space that kind of, I think that I think the soil is already ripe to kind of then plant the seeds into creating the community. If you have gaming, and if you have something especially like Stardew Valley or Life is Strange, where literally mental health conversation is the backbone of what is behind those games. And so having that thing in common creates a space for people to be able to be open to a conversation they might not be open to start with. It's not just talking about mental health. I'm not, if I encounter a stranger and I walk up to them on the street and I go, how do you really feel today? They'll probably back away. But if they're here and they're watching Stardew Valley and they see, wow, this character is really suffering, and oh yeah, I want to talk about that, because sometimes I feel that way too, and I would love to talk about that with somebody, because I don't get to talk to anybody about that. And then other people come in and have the same idea, or they feel that just general community with other people who otherwise have been disenfranchised and made to feel less than for having mental health issues or for feeling a certain way. And so then that part comes back to me and to my moderators to be able to validate without overstepping the line, right? Because nobody wants to pretend to play to be a professional, play. I'm saying words here, but nobody wants to pretend that they're a professional and overstep that line. But we definitely have to be able to create open discussion, so that it's not just about that gate behind which, okay, now I'm going to go and talk to a mental health professional. that's something I might not consider if I didn't stop by and have this conversation and see, oh, other people are feeling the same thing. And I guess this is normal because at least 4 other people are agreeing and saying this, and it's okay for me to feel this way. And you build that community. And I think that that's what people are really, really looking for, is to connect on a deeper level, but they need that springboard to be able to do that.
Right. There's that level of authenticity, right? And feeling like a safe space. You know, we kind of use that term a lot, and it's not to be, cheesy about it, but it really is important to have that. And I think you bring up a really good point. You don't want to, if you're not a mental health professional, you're not going to, want to provide advice like that, because
right.
There's obviously they've been training for it for years. So go back into the community side of things. I want to turn it over to you, Eugenia, because as somebody, I've seen your community impact with Leyline and your network across so many different universities and what you've done in your life so far, in your career so far. So could you maybe speak to us a little bit about your experiences in cultivating the academic and collegiate and really the student ambassadorship, and how that community has become very powerful, and how they can help in being a force for good as well?
Of course. Raise your hand if you've been feeling lonely because of COVID, right? I think all of us have and I'm an introvert. I'm a super introvert. I hate going out and going to bars and meeting new people, making eye contact, absolute worst. But COVID has made us crave that human interaction. And I think that that's really where gaming and community building can be incredibly powerful. As colleges move to this remote learning type of situation, we're seeing a lot of schools who had held gaming clubs at arm's length for a very long time finally invest in the infrastructure for these clubs to say, okay, you guys are building a really incredible platform here where students across the campus can come in, hang out. And that is a very big social need that we need to fill. Student activities helps, students keep their grades up, keeps morale up. It builds your cultural life on campus. So we're seeing that gaming is a really powerful tool for schools to just invest in as a community building platform. It helps people reduce anxiety and loneliness. And it's the same thing as a streamer building their community on their campus, on their Twitch page. But schools are finally noticing it's been really exciting. And you build the communities that you want to be a part of. You build something because it's missing, and you think that that's really sad for other people. And so gamers have really mobilized a lot of the things that they really want to see. They're doing a lot of charity work. I think I spoke to someone at Tiltify yesterday, and they said, there's like over $10 million, even that's before Dr. Lupo's charity stream ended, $10 million raised on Tiltify for different philanthropic causes, for cancer research, for COVID vaccines, for people's anxiety organizations like You Are Rad, and all of these causes that are important to you and your community. You can raise money, you can help build awareness. And it's not even just money that the gamers are mobilizing. I've seen a number of gaming companies host blood drives, including Corsair, Team Liquid, where they're literally saving lives. They say that one blood donation is saving literally 3 lives. So congratulations to everyone who decided to give up their time, give up their body, and give up their wallets for these different causes. But gamers are being mobilized to build the communities that they want to see, both in game and out of game. I absolutely love my guild and RPGs that I play. And when somebody in my guild needs help with just getting through school, or they need a little love, we're there to support them. And they in turn are my community and my people and my tribe. And what are games, if not at its base level, the community building that we want to see? We build the world that we want to see as a game developer, right? We say, this is what I'd like to see the real world look like, and you build that. And so I've seen a lot of games that focus on, To My Best Friend just launched a couple weeks ago. It's an indie game from I think it's like a 2-man team, and it's a game about losing your best friend and what are all the things you wish you could have said. Or, Stardew Valley is literally one of my favorite games, and it touches upon all those things that Anxiety said. Quests in RPGs. What is that if not helping people in town, right? I think games are such a powerful motivator for a lot of different things, including global good.
Yeah. It's funny, as you were describing that, I just thought of some of you is probably too young to remember this movie, but Field of Dreams, right? If you build it, they will come. And that was built around the game of baseball, right? And wanting to build a community that you want to be a part of. And I think that's a really important thing. And I think a theme that both you and Anxiety just had mentioned is like getting rid of the stigma, whether it's being a gamer, whether it's being an introvert, whether it's being a mental, having some mental health issues or mental health struggles or challenges. It's really getting rid of that anxiety and being part of a group and kind of fostering and creating that. So, and I think had I had that opportunity, in college to have like a gaming crew and stuff like that and be part of that, I would have loved it, but alas, that was many moons ago, so that didn't work out. But we do have an educator on the panel, Cody. I know that you're a teacher, so how have you brought games and gamification into educating the next generation?
Man, a few of the things I've been just thinking of listening to the others speak has been about that connectivity that's created through this. Man, when my brother comes and visits, we don't live too close, but we will still play Twisted Metal 2, like from the 90s. Like it's an old game, but it was we would always play it in the co-op tournament where you could work together to beat all the levels and the final boss. And it was just such a bonding thing. And then I remember as a kid, there was a season where my parents they're on the brink of divorce. They were arguing every day. It was a very stressful, very high anxiety place in my household. And my brother and I just games like Final Fantasy X at the time. I mean, that was our retreat. That was our safe place. And it bonded us. It gave us kind of an escape. It gave us something to do. It gave us a little sense of purpose and focus. And it was just so good. And so now as an educator, I work at a charter school that seems by and large to have what you would call at-risk youth. I'm not so fond of that term, but it gives us at least some context. Kids from real low socioeconomic backgrounds, kids with social anxiety disorders, kids who've gone through just bullying. You talk to them and it's like, yeah, I'm part of LGBTQ and I was bullied and they lost a lot of self-esteem and everything. And so the charter school Learn for Life, where I work out and teach, a lot of kids are coming with a lot of baggage, a lot of hurt. And there's walls. I mean, they're putting walls up. There's guards, and for good reason. I totally understand it. And so bringing in icebreaker games on the first day of class that build commonality and build trust and build, that safe place. And then, this March, right, I've been teaching, this is my classroom, like where I teach from. I've been teaching from home since March, since COVID hit. And so now we got these kids, they're even more isolated in their homes. And so Kahoot is an online platform for building games and using that not only for studying terminology, not only for studying for quizzes, though it has helped. And I've noticed quiz scores just shoot up by using the Kahoot game. Back in class, I would do games to study, and I would have reward incentives with like candy or something. I'm nowhere near the kids. They're all at home. I can't email them candy or something, And so, but having that end leaderboard, first, second, third at the end of the Kahoot game, it pushes them, it motivates them. They buy in and they put in funny nicknames and they just laugh and they joke and it's fun and there's competition, but there's, oh man, you totally beat me by a second, because it scores you not just by correctness, but the speed that you put in the correct answer. And so I've got these classes that have been completely remote. The student, I've never met them physically. They've never met each other physically. Wow. And they're building bonds. They're building connections with me and with each other. And I've had so many students tell me that this class is now their safe place.
Wow.
It is where they come to feel a sense of purpose, and they feel welcomed and they belong. And games has been a huge element of how I bring that and make that possible.
make that connection. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. That's all. I mean, I'm still connected with so many friends, when because of gaming, especially during this pandemic, but even before, when I'm in Southern California and they moved up to the Bay Area, we could still, bond over World of Warcraft or Battlefield 5. Well, at the time I think it was 3, but it certainly is something that keeps us connected. I want to pivot really quick though to philanthropy, as we're talking about what philanthropy does and how gamers could participate in philanthropy in some way, even in a small level, all the way to the larger levels like anxiety and Dr. Lupo. So Jeremy, philanthropy comes in a lot of different ways. It's not always hard cash. It could be services. It could be just donating your time. So I guess it coming in so many different forms. Like, I wanted to ask, like, what are your thoughts on different forms of philanthropy, and how can we harness that gamers as a resource to feed into that philanthropy engine?
This is a massive opportunity, I would say. But before I get into that, did want to give a shout out to Cody. To me, educators are so important. Education is so critical to all of functioning society. So I really celebrate your effort to focus on education. And to share some background, one of my roles at Blizzard was heading up one of our collegiate organizations called TESPA. And through that, I was able to speak to a lot of educators, teachers, professors, and 100% it was aligned with Cody's experience, was that they were able to bring in students that were literally about to drop out and just very unmotivated and, essentially in a problem area. But as soon as they introduced gaming, what happened was that it created these social bonds. It created a sense of, okay, we've got things in common now. And that sense of joy and safety actually unlocks so much creative thinking and problem solving, and a sense of I can achieve something. So they were able to take some of the worst performers and then turn them into some of the best performers in the class. And that is a giant success story.
Let me stop you right there really quick, because I jumped the gun pivoting over to you, because we have a question from Riku Kitty. And this is for Cody and for you. I think this is very, very relevant to what you just said. And I think Eugene has had some experience in this too. And anxiety, if you have any experience, please jump in as well. But Riku Kitty asks, are all students accepting of games being brought into the classroom? Or is there ever any conflict or any hesitation to engage? So thoughts on that?
I haven't noticed any real pushback. The kids seem most kids nowadays have some form of familiarity with gaming, some level, even if it's not video games, maybe it's board games, maybe it's sports. All of those. I mean, there's the whole gamut of gaming, but that just, it gives them something to do. Sometimes you go and hang out with people and you might be, I want to just go hug the wall. I do not want to meet these people. Oh, but I can play this game. And now I'm starting to feel a little more comfortable because I've got something to do. And little by little bit, I'm starting to feel that sense of comfortability with these total strangers in this environment. I cannot think of an example of all my students when somebody's like, oh no, I ain't going to do it. Maybe a few times there's been some hesitancy, some kids who felt maybe they just weren't going to do well. And so there was that fear of failure. And I'm trying to think, I know I've encouraged them, and
if I may, Cody, I could also share some of the input that I got from some of the educators, which is one of their biggest challenges is not the students, it's actually administration. Because these teachers grew up as gamers, so they got the value. They understood wow, this helped me learn and to build social bonds and how to cooperate and be on a team. But folks that are not in that space, there's a general stigma that, hey, gamers are for introverts and they're wasting their time, or they're kind of wasting away and not getting smart and learning and reading books. So it's the challenge is really, how do you get people that are not familiar with the space to understand that there's a spectrum of good and bad things with gaming. There's a spectrum of addiction and isolation, but there's also this entire spectrum of problem solving, learning, cooperation, achievement, empowerment. So I think the big challenge in the education space is finding the way that we can integrate these two things together. And, you know, it's like, you know, video games are just one extrapolation of games. It's like, you're right. It's like board games are there. Even just like challenges. I remember like having spelling bees. Like, that's a game. Because like if I fail, it's okay. Like nothing's going to happen. There's some evolution to be made in recognizing the power of video games. And then I think there's also this opportunity for us to invest in that space and create games that are very specific to education. And the challenge is how much economic incentive is there for big AAA game developers to go into that space. So that's where the opportunity lies, is how do we build those incentives so that there is more of a focus and innovation with education.
And those games you play in education are memorable. I don't remember learning anything really with Oregon Trail, but it's like that was a game we played at school. And I remember it to this day. You know, it's like they will stick with you. They have an impact for sure.
And so it's okay. To bring it back to the students, though, I've actually been really lucky to work with a lot of students hand in hand for the last 6 years. And there have been studies where basically under the age of 18 in the US, 90% or more, depending on, you know, specific demographics and locations and cost of living, but essentially 90% of kids are playing at least 4 hours of video games on their phone, on a console, or on PC a week, at least 4 hours. But if you ask them, are you a gamer? That number will actually drop to 60%. So everybody's playing games, but they don't want to admit that they're a gamer because there is a stigma to it. And then if you go into older kids, so kids kind of in the generation between 18 and my age, 26, far fewer of them will admit that they're gamers, but nearly everyone is playing games. I mean, when Fortnite was popping off, who wasn't playing Fortnite? Who wasn't dropping on Tilted? So I think gaming is a very powerful thing that everyone is doing, but there's still a stigma about it that they want to step away from and hold it out at arm's length. And I think part of that is because there are people who play video games because they're fun, not because they're good at it. And it's kind of like ladder anxiety, where you're scared of being bad. So if you say that you're a gamer and you're really bad, okay, then are you really a gamer? If you can't get at least 5 headshots in this game of COD, are you really a gamer? Probably not. So there's some sort of like skill gap and language gap here that's happening, but nearly all students are playing games, and that's of like all different kinds, like Candy Crush all the way to World of Warcraft and everything in between. And then I have seen conflicts come from, you know, kids are competitive. They think that they deserve something. So I've seen, especially in the collegiate space, where they're learning those interpersonal relationships and those skills on how to communicate, where people think that they're both the best top jungler and they're not sure why, you know, a Diamond 2 got picked when I'm Challenger. Why didn't you pick me? I'm Challenger. And so those interpersonal communication skills are also developed through gaming, where you learn it's not always about your ranking. It's not always about how good you are. It's about how you work in the team. It's about the framework of what you bring to the table as a person. So there are conflicts, but I also think that the games itself acts as a resolution for people. And so I think Marie probably sees something very similar, where a lot of people who come to her stream, including myself, that's how I found her, like, was a big fan of her stream. If you guys haven't checked it out, yeah, I've streamed once or twice, but I'm not a streamer, you know, but Marie, she's a streamer. So the same way that people are playing games, but they're not gamers, there's a language gap here that I'd love for us to solve one day.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, chat is, I don't want to say your name wrong, but Gwikaboo totally agrees. And as an educator at some point, also felt that the students just were embarrassed about being a gamer, quote unquote. So yeah, I hope we can get past that stigma. Although I think we've definitely, as a society, kind of made a lot of strides in that direction. So going back to the philanthropy pivot and the different forms of philanthropy that we have, I'd really like to get some thoughts on how, you know, we as a community could mobilize gamers even further into, you know, participating in philanthropic activities. So kicking over to Anxiety really quick, because we haven't heard from you in a minute. Do you have any other idea? I mean, as a streamer, you have obviously a very unique perspective on that. But do you have any other, you know, thoughts or ideas as to how, like, I myself or any other ham and egger off the street could use their gaming as a as a way to do good things, to be philanthropic.
Well, I mean, first and foremost, and I'm not going to speak on this part too much, but that's where Leyline comes in, and so I'll leave that to all of the rest of you to kind of to take that second piece. But the first piece, I really think, I mean, it's beyond games. It's in the communities that games bring us. And I know I keep coming back to communities, but I really think that's true. In March this year, after the first lockdown for COVID, I launched something called the Upliftathon. And the Upliftathon was a collaboration between 20 streamers where everybody came on and shared positive news from their communities. And while we were doing this, we were fundraising for Take This. We were able to raise $3,500 within the span of 3 hours.
Wow.
And I'm super proud of that. But that is an example of streaming becoming bigger than just being about games, and then streamers deciding that they wanted to do something that was bigger than just their one community, and bringing together all of these communities makes huge impact, right? So by yourself, you might not make a really, really big difference, but if you have a community, if you have people behind you who believe in your cause, who believe in this good thing, you can make incredible things happen. And I think there's the opposite side of that, right? Where you will have negative communities who bring about terrible things, right? Who will bring about, people who will target people and dox them and have an entire community go after them and everything. There's the opposite side of that. And I think that just makes it all the more important to utilize, for people who are trying to do good, to utilize the communities that they have for good, and to kind of, for the layman, for somebody who's maybe not watching a stream all the time, that's go to your local streamer, like their posts, retweet them, watch their YouTube videos. All of those things make a big difference, make you part of the community, and help and help the streamer continue getting the word out. So that's how you can help there. I think I've kind of rambled all over the place. So
no, that was perfect. That was perfect, because you bring up a great point, right? It's like, think of it's bigger than yourself, and trying to find that community that's bigger than yourself. And speaking of someone who has really looked at something a lot bigger than himself, is Jeremy, who's founded Leyline, and what he's really trying to do, and what he's mobilized just with the team here. So we've mentioned Leyline a couple times here. So Jeremy, let me kick it over to you. Like, tell me why you wanted to start Leyline. I think it's an interesting story, and I think the audience right now would really be interested in hearing like what motivated you, and why you did this incredibly hard pivot, an incredible sacrifice to start this organization.
Thanks for that, Mark. It is a bit of a long story. I'll try to be as brief as possible. Feel free to interrupt me if I just ramble forever.
I'm not shy to interrupt you, Jeremy.
I'd say I've had this sense of responsibility, and this principle of just do the right thing instilled essentially by my parents. Like, they were just great role models. They didn't really teach me that. And they were immigrants, and they grew up in extreme poverty. And in fact, like, I still have family in the Philippines that are living in poverty. So I think I was exposed to a lot of that. And I grew up in New York, and not in the best neighborhood. So, there's a lot of bad things that I got to see. And so it made me think about, okay, how do we fix these kind of problems? This is really awful and terrible. And so, fast forward into, where I am today, I've been so fortunate to have this opportunity to get a great education, to have a safe home, and, a family to take care of me, to get a job, and to take my career to a pretty good level. And, I'm just so grateful for that. And so when you reach that level of, okay, I've been able to accomplish all these things in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you get your safety, your hygiene factors, your social connection. Then the top of it is self-actualization, where you realize I don't need more for myself. I think what's going to make me feel better is actually helping others. And so I think that's where I hit that point in my life where I think I started to figure, okay, what can I do to improve the state of the world and really earn this like amazing opportunities that I had. So I referred back to the massive potential in the gaming industry. And here we are in 2020, and we're facing probably the greatest set of crises that we've ever seen in a generation. And so I think about the future a lot, and I'm a technologist, and I'm also a father. And I think about what is the world that my two young daughters are going to grow into 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. What's the world that I'm going to grow into? Like, I like to live long, and I would love a happy, positive world to live in. And so I see massive, massive challenges that we need to overcome as a species. Challenges like climate change, challenges like extreme poverty. These are problems that are ripping us apart. And, I was sitting there at Blizzard trying my best to say, we can do so much more. We can do a lot. And unfortunately, what happens in the private sector is through no fault of any individual. It's really how the system's designed. The private sector is all about the bottom line. It's about capital efficiency and raising as much money as you can. And that is the measurement for success. What's missing is a triple bottom line, which is what is an organization doing to help people and planet and then profit as a byproduct of those efforts. Because the business of doing business is improving the state of the world. So measure the state of the world and optimize towards that. So I realized that there's all this opportunity, 2.7 billion gamers, hundreds of billions of dollars being generated, and the nonprofit world is not gaining any of that capacity. So I figured, okay, let's just take all of this business modeling and, money and connections and talent, and let's bring it into the nonprofit world and just make a difference. We do not have time to mess around. Mm-hmm. There are, just in the US alone, 4 million people are going to be losing their homes and evicted onto the streets by the end of the year. That's going to be followed by 14 million in a number of 2 or 3 months. We can help. We can help significantly, and it doesn't take a lot to do that. So I decided to leave Blizzard to pursue this project. And so what I did is I just sold my house, cashed out all my retirement money, sold all of my physical possessions, and just donated everything to this organization so we could build a team and start building this platform. And it's working. So it's shockingly happening because people care. They see what's happening and they're looking for an avenue to make a difference. Even if it's just contributing an hour of their time or donating $5 to the cause, they see the platform that we're trying to create. And that's where we are. We can kind of get into what Leyline is, but that's a bit of the journey.
Yeah, let's talk about what Leyline is, because and before we jump onto that, I think we've got another question from Rico Kitty here, and the question is, how can game developers best encourage their communities to give back and support others? And I think Leyline, what it is absolutely something that could help with that. So who wants to take the question? What is Leyline? Oh, excuse me, guys. I'm going to say, I'm not going to put anxiety on the spot. So Eugene or Cody?
I gave her the pitch.
She did give me the pitch, and I could probably do a terrible job only because summarizing is not my strong suit, but I can try, and then y'all can correct me when I'm.
Why not? That actually sounds kind of a fun experiment.
It's a great test for us. That's
right.
Okay. All right. For all credit, I do have ADHD, and retention is very difficult for short-term stuff. Okay, but Leyline is a platform wherein I don't have the short snippet, so prepared. This is going to be long. So Leyline is a platform through which good deeds can be rewarded and are gamified. So if you do a good act in real life, you can come back into Leyline and you will get basically an upgrade to your character or be able to accomplish something. So I did it. So basically, I love the whole Shopkins for good, for philanthropy. I love that whole metaphor. But yeah, so you you do something, you maybe collect your neighbor's chickens and put them all in the coop for them, and then in exchange you get money to be able to buy a nice new tunic. And so that works in Legend of Zelda, and that will work in Leyline for Leyline.
Yeah,
that's
Fantastic job. Hey, on the spot, nailed it. I could probably take it a step further as well,
please.
Which is we're really trying to solve, I reference like the economic incentives are just broken right now. So how do we make doing good easy, and how do we make it fun, and how do we make it valuable? We can do all of these things because we built this platform, and the way it works is that we are going to connect different groups together. The first is nonprofits, who are the causes that we want to supercharge. So right now, one of our first few causes that we're partnered with is a platform for volunteer computing. It's actually a project birthed out of UC Berkeley. It's called BOINC. It's been running for 16 years, where we can just accelerate by donating and leaving your computer on overnight, just doing nothing. It'll accelerate science on climate change, on cancer research, on exploring the cosmos, and a host of other diseases. And so what we do is we say, okay, awesome. If you're doing these good things, we're going to give you a bunch of Leyline points. And that's like the reward system, and it grows from there. The second cohort is actually sponsors. So these could be gaming companies, brands, hardware manufacturers. And what they say is like, this is a great platform. We're going to donate a bunch of stuff here, whether it's like in-game items for their games, or if it's coupon codes for Zydax or NZXT, where you can get some PC hardware. And so a lot of these brands see the value, and they're like, we are in. We're going to throw this into the prize pool. So now we got this prize pool and a bunch of causes, and we're going to bring in the users, and we're going to say, we're going to make this super easy for you. Click a couple buttons and you can start earning Leyline points, and then you're doing good things. And so the prize pool is really that economic incentive where you can earn these coupon codes and you can buy stuff on a cheap, or we'll even just provide some gift cards in there, just like a loyalty program. So that's where the compound loop comes into play, because we're just filling this prize pool with as much value as possible. And then we take all these wonderful intrinsic motivators from gaming, like leaderboards and your profile and your avatar and your skins and your achievements. And so imagine this. Is there a place in the internet right now which aggregates all the good things you do in the world and quantifies it and then gamifies it and then rewards you on top of that? Your Leyline profile will tell you, hey, I've donated 50 gallons of blood throughout my life and saved like hundreds of lives. Hey, I've donated 1,000 hours of computing power and accelerated cancer research, which then led to 3 white papers, which then led to a drug discovery that's now saving hundreds of lives. This is possible, and we're creating that. So that's the key, is we've now built this business model and economic engine, layered in all these wonderful intrinsic motivators, and then put value on top of that. So it is a win-win-win-win-win for everybody. No one loses in this like ecosystem, because even the sponsors are like, whoa, you're talking to gamers and to millennials and Generation Z. We would love to connect with people, and it's like part of our corporate social responsibility as well. And it's a tax write-off because you're a nonprofit. It is a slam dunk. So this is already happening. We got partners on board, and they're like, let's make this thing go. So now we're just trying to get the message out there and say, this thing is real. It's just a huge value proposition, and it's free. I mean, essentially, you're just like donating your computing power. So anyway, that's
the lowest hanging fruit right now, right? Is donating your computing power with BOINC, and we hope to bring on other partners in that space too. And you said win-win-win-win. So Cody, you have an assignment. You have to find that Michael Scott reference from The Office, and so we can put that as a meme for right. Win-win-win-win. No, and Virix Dreamcore actually has a really good question / comment here that's really interesting. So it's like Street Pass, where you have to actually walk or be active in real life to get in-game benefits, but instead of being active, you're just doing good things in real life. And I think that's pretty much exactly what we're trying to do here. One example, as you gave with BOINC and donating computing power, but even right now, the simplest honor system that Leyline has is the daily exercise button. But what's on the roadmap, would you say, that is a little bit more integrated, Jeremy, with let's use exercise as an example. Could you share anything in terms of like what the goals are, and what kind of, like, as simple as like API connections that we're looking to do, and what kind of partnerships that we're trying to solidify?
Absolutely. In fact, just a quick aside, we are 100% transparent, so radically transparent. So the project is open source, and it's nonprofit, and it's open knowledge, which means that all of our key meetings, like our all hands and design meetings and Q&A sessions, will be right up streamed on Twitch and then on YouTube as well. So if you guys have any questions about what our plans are, you are free to check out everything. We will welcome you with open arms. So in terms of the low-hanging fruit and easy opportunities, we do have a daily exercise check-in. So you literally go to Leyline, click a button, boom, 10 Leyline points. Thank you for exercising. Why exercise? Exercise is awesome for you, universally awesome for you. It keeps you healthier. It improves your mental health. It makes you more resilient to disease, which is quite quite convenient for the situation we're in right now. It helps you like build your social connections. So exercise is a great way to do it, and it is honor system and what we want to do is create these small incremental upgrade paths. So let's say that you want to earn more Leyline points and get that gift card way faster. Great. How about you connect one of your exercise devices like a Fitbit or a Strava or your Google Fit Watch or your Apple Watch? Those APIs are actually public, and then we can just build that connection. You validate your account. We don't need any of your data. We just say, awesome, you verified this. Let's double your points. And so we have all these different causes that you can support. So Red Cross is one of the potential partners that we're having discussions with right now. And so they're like, yes, we are like desperate to get some blood donations because like hospitals are max capacity. So we can actually just come to them and say, we got thousands of users ready to go, and we will incentivize them like crazy to just actually do something that they're probably already willing to do. They just need that little bit of a push. So that's the idea, is that all the causes we onboard onto the platform, we can validate them through data connection. So it's real proof of doing good. So we know people aren't just like, we don't want some bad actors coming in and just like flushing out all of the prize pool for themselves. Right. We're putting in like the right mechanics to keep that balanced. And so I think the philosophy here is that first, if you want to do good in the world, you got to take care of yourself. If you can't swim by yourself, you can't save someone else from drowning. So start with your own health. And we need to focus on that because this is a new world that we're stepping into, and we got to take care of ourselves. Once you're able to do that, they're like, great, let's reward that. It's a good thing for you. And then by protecting, to making yourself having a good life, you can now project and support others. So the second thing is just this passive contributions. So the fact that we have, as gamers, the best machines on the planet, we are freaking awesome with the computing power and GPUs we have. Like, it's all still sold out, but you know the deal. So yeah, just like leave your computer on at night and boom, you're accelerated science, earning Leyline points, and you're boosting up your profile for like, how awesome you as a hero in the real world. And that's the passive approach. Then we can just keep on adding more. Like, hey, if we want to build a house for Habitat for Humanity, if we're going to volunteer at your local shelter, these are all things that we can just partner up with every nonprofit, and they are already super happy to say, yes, we will take any kind of incentive and reward system. And the beauty is that we're not trying to compete with anybody. If there's already loyalty and rewards programs for good things, great. We're going to stack our value right on top of that. And really, our mission is we're going to supercharge every nonprofit on the planet. That is like very doable when we've created this economy, and it's just this infinite engine of abundance. So yeah, we've got like a lot of the talent here that have built these ecosystems in the game world. We know how to do the WoW auction house. We know how to do the Diablo item generation. We know how to build these profiles so that way you see the sense of accomplishment. So we're just applying everything to just make this an insane value proposition.
Right. Yeah, it's what we've already been able to accomplish, and I think there's no downside to it. If you have the means, it's a way to help. If you don't have, if it's tough times right now with the pandemic, but if you're able to have an internet connection and your computer up and running, and you connect to Leyline, connect to Boink, have them talk to each other, and now you're earning points, and you're going to get rewarded for just donating your computer's time. And even my 970 GTX, which is super old, still works and does that. So if anybody wants to donate a 3090, feel free.
Oh, and Mark, actually, one thing to also clarify is that we are valuing contributions on the most the most equal way possible, which is your time. We value your time, which is capped out at 24 hours a day. So we want to create this platform where we have more equitable outcomes. So let's say you have access to a supercomputer or like 15 devices. We don't want this lopsided thing where only those people get to accelerate their points and get those prizes. Right. So that helps to normalize the distribution of rewards to anybody just for participating. And so that's really key. So even if you're, if you're like Mark and have a really crappy computer, we will still reward you just the same as, Johnny with the supercomputer. Sorry for the potty mouth, guys.
No. So we got 5 minutes here. So maybe 30 seconds for the Leyline team here. Why did you join Leyline? So let's start with Eugenia.
Honestly, I wanted to be a not corporate shill for something that I actually believed in. I really wanted to do something good and to go to bed feeling like I helped somebody that day and to advocate for something that I care about, which in my case is global warming and climate change. That's like the big cause that I care about. And Boink allows me to do that, and Leyline will allow me to do that.
Right. How about you, Cody?
Boy, I mean, we just heard Jeremy talk for several minutes. I feel like he gave me the 2-minute pitch. Sign me up. I'm down. It's like, hey, we're going to do we're going to save the world. We're going to end poverty. I'm like, I want to end poverty. What can I do? How can I be a part of this? How can I help make this thing happen? And just use the skills, the resources, making videos, talking in podcasts and stuff like that. I do already. I already got this equipment, and such. And my like freelance video production outside of class, I mean, has been really fizzled this year. And so this has been like, cool. I can devote time and energy and creativity. And it's really energizing me to be a part of doing something that I truly believe in is going to make a major difference.
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh while you're talking, but an inertial law just really ripped me one on Twitch chat. So thanks, Guy. And I joined Leyline for very much the same reasons. We want to try to find good in this world, and we want to do good in this world. And if however I could do that by donating my time. Not being, as Eugenia put it, a corporate shell as much as possible was definitely my goal there. So I do want to really circle back to Rico Kitty's question. We really didn't answer it very well, and I think it's an important question for her to ask. And I'm sorry, I shouldn't be assuming gender here, but I saw Kitty, but him or her, they. How can game developers best encourage their communities to give back and support others? So, who wants to tackle that one?
So I have been very blessed to work with a lot of companies, especially game companies, that love to give back to their communities. And there are little things that every game developer can do to do global good. So I think the number one thing that they can do is to add accessibility features into their game, right? Making sure that text is readable, that there's subtitles, and that there are a lot of features that can be used in the game. Whether you're hard of hearing, whether you have some eyesight loss, etc. I think there's a lot of ways that they can help there. I've seen Bungie start up a whole Bungie Foundation to do lots of good, or partnering with companies like Make-A-Wish to grant children wishes. They can start up their own charitable leg to make sure that they're giving back to their community. I've seen a lot of game companies actually lift up charity activations that are happening within their platforms. So Blizzard loves to put all of the charity streams up on their Battle.net launcher. And we've been very lucky to work with Fran on her Overwatch Community Cup just a couple of weeks ago, where that was exactly the mission and was placed on the front page of their Battle.net client. I've seen a lot of game developers do a lot of really good things. I think lifting up content creators with the same brand messaging as yourself, making sure that you have a core mission statement that you can follow through on, and doing every little thing that you can to make sure that people can enjoy your games and build a community out of their games. I think those are like the 3 easiest things that game developers can do to, help reduce world suck.
Yeah. We're at time, guys. I want to really, it's a huge thank you to Anxiety for joining us and donating an hour of her time to help us out. So thank you so much, Anxiety. Really appreciate it. Thank you to everyone on Twitch who participated. Really appreciate that. I think I just want to part this and end our conversation with just a call to arms to all you developers out there. Check out leyline.gg. We have an arcade. We want to point your games from our platform and really use the platform to help create good. And so if you're going to develop a science game, like I saw in chat, you guys were talking about what Borderlands 3 did. Awesome. We'd love to point it over your way. So there's a lot more to it, and we're happy to answer any more questions. But until then, thank you again for your time and your hour. Thank you to the panelists. Thank you to Renee for keeping us honest. And everybody, have a great day and a happy holidays.
Hi, everybody. Thank you.